I was probably about 18 or 19 years old the year that my aunt came home, around Christmas time. A beautiful white cotton cloth with silver flowers embroidered on it, wrapped lovingly around her head. My cousin watched her quietly for a few moments as my aunt talked about having enjoyed being at prayer that morning, before my cousin asked, "When were you planning on telling us you converted?" See, my aunt had been staunchly Catholic. My uncle, an immigrant from Bangladesh, had always been Muslim. But my cousin had noticed that my aunt had not just been participating occasionally, like she had done most of our lives, but she had begun wholeheartedly embracing Muslim practices over the months preceding this moment. And seeing her donning her equally lovely shalwar kameez was a whole new ballgame for us. Over the last 15 years or so, that family has blended very well some of the Muslim traditions from my uncle's family with our own Western ones. And to be perfectly honest, I always look forward to the festivities when we celebrate with the family. Celebrations that once included just my uncle now boast my uncle's parents, truly and affectionately my grandmother and grandfather, as well as my uncle's younger brother and his wife. It also includes a plethora of aunties, uncles, and babies by proxy who we get to celebrate all holidays with, ours and theirs. These traditions have become so important to our family that I have been known to cancel or rearrange plans just to make sure I can attend. And Eid is probably my favorite of the year. I know it means there's a big family dinner on the horizon. And even last week, when giving options for a meeting that included travel, I looked at Friday on the schedule with a huge grin and said, "Oh, it's Eid. I'm not free that day." But it wasn't until recently, as I was researching for this sermon, that I understood that I was only experiencing a very, very small piece of this holy day. And I even told my aunt yesterday, as I talked through this sermon with her, that I found myself struggling to really share such a special time. With roughly 1 million Muslims in the state of California, and the Islamic Center of Orange County, one of the largest Muslim community centers in the nation, I'm almost baffled at how little I know about Islam and how tough I found it to encapsulate this holy time without sounding like an encyclopedia. But here's my heartfelt effort. To understand Eid, one must first understand Ramadan because it is impossible to have one without the other. For anyone unfamiliar, Ramadan is a period of fasting that lasts in the range of 29 to 30 days. Since the Islamic calendar follows the lunar cycle, Ramadan, and thereby Eid al-Fitr, do not fall on the same day each year. And indeed, the actual time of breaking one's daily fast, as well as the celebration of Eid, are not quite the same for everyone, even in a given geographic area. Much of this particular faith practice isn't confined to simply day and night, but the actual time of the rising and the setting of the sun during the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar. The first day of Ramadan this year, my aunt kept badgering my uncle, hurry up, honey, you have to sit down. We break fast at 7:37 p.m. Much of this holy month is quite to the minute. But exactly what makes Ramadan so holy is that it celebrates the gift of the Quran, which is said to have been given to the world during this month. And as such, Ramadan encompasses 3 of the 5 pillars of Islam throughout the whole month. Daily prayers are a regular practice for many Muslims, and certainly throughout the month of deep spiritual reflection and contemplation. Eid itself boasts a number of prayers in gratitude for the previous 30 days. Throughout the month, healthy Muslims are required to abstain from food and drink, yes, that includes water too, as a means of reflection, contemplation, and solidarity with those who are less fortunate. Those who cannot fast are asked to donate a modest fee, known as fidya, for every day that they cannot participate. And critically, there is the obligatory zakat, who my cousin's brother-in-law told me yesterday is 2.5% of your income, by the way.
Total wealth.
Thank you.
Not income.
A small donation that is made to help those in need. The hope is that zakat should be paid before Eid, as it traditionally goes, to help intended recipients celebrate the day. Of course, with any tradition, the level of participation is up to each individual. Not everyone is able to fast, for example, and concessions are made. Children are not expected to fast or pay zakat until they reach puberty, but are encouraged to experience the act of fasting as young as age 6, so that they may start growing accustomed to the practice. Pregnant folks and the terminally ill are not required to fast, but are expected to attend prayers and contribute zakat. But just about everyone celebrates Eid. No matter the circumstances surrounding one's level of participation, Eid is one of the 2 major holidays of Islam, and it does not seek to celebrate the end of the fasting, but it's in order to share gratitude for the opportunity to have done some really wonderfully deep soul work. Now, depending on where in the world you're located, the celebration can last anywhere from 1 to 3 days, with prayers throughout the day. Some Muslims will attend mosque at least once on the day, and most will enjoy family time, including the meal I mentioned a bit ago that you heard Nikki speak about as well. And in particular, the children really enjoy it. According to my Islam professor, Dr. Saeed Rizwan, my son's always the one counting down the days to Ramadan, but that's because he knows he gets a gift on Eid. Family time is cherished, and some of the foods eaten together at this time are a sort of special occasion food. Nikki and I did not have a conversation about this sermon before her video, by the way. For my uncle's family, there's always halal goat, halal denoting that meat has been prepared according to Muslim law, and it's highly likely that in addition to her regular cooking, Grandma will make one of my favorite desserts, shir kurma, a sweet vermicelli dessert, somewhat similar to rice pudding, made with milk, sugar, dates, and other nuts. We could say that in terms of how Eid is celebrated, that it's somewhat similar to the celebratory pieces of a secular Christmas, the Christmas without Jesus. We tend to be deliberately charitable during the holiday season. We spend time working to pick the perfect gifts for children to enjoy, and we relish the opportunity to gather together in love and celebration with our loved ones. But to call them the same would be a great mistake, because there is no Unitarian Universalist equivalent to Ramadan or Eid. There is nothing that we do in our faith that requires the welcomed suspension of comfort, the depth of reflection, or the spiritual exploration of Ramadan. And I wondered while writing this if I could truly capture in my own words how deeply meaningful this participation is. Ramadan is not a sacrifice. On the contrary, it is a month that most Muslims look forward to and enthusiastically participate in. Even TikTok this year had a flurry of positive Ramadan content to choose from sharing of reflections to Muslims sharing how non-Muslims could support their Ramadan participating friends, and even Muslim American comedians riffing on what it's like to celebrate Ramadan in a cross-cultural context. Like the video where a guy runs into his friend at McDonald's after fasting has already begun and have to find a way to talk their way out of getting caught. But still, surprise, without a true frame of reference, the task of effectively sharing this time is a Herculean effort when it's not one's own personal experience. So I sought out the words of one who could share well. The Reverend Summer al-Bayati, whose words made up today's reading, is a UU minister of Iraqi descent and a colleague of wonderful faith and a beauty of expression. And I'd like to give her the opportunity to share her holy month with us. with the following words. Ramadan is a time of going deeper into a spiritual oasis, like entering a cave for a few hours while I fast from bodily nourishment. It's an invitation to pause for a whole month while I find spiritual awakening by studying the Quran more deeply and performing embodiment prayers 5 times a day. It becomes a holy retreat from the mundane, even in the midst of the ordinary. For 30 days, I fulfill my spiritual needs as if in great hunger for the divine spirit, and hopefully, I emerge from the cave transformed. This holy experience is the healing. This sacred time is an abundant act of love, and this is what I seek each year during this most blessed of months, so that I can answer the call of the divine spirit. What if I were to find spiritual nourishment by entering whatever doors opened to the divine spirit on a daily basis? What if each day I awakened and began it in theological reflection or praising the name of the divine each morning and each evening? Who would I become? For those of us who cannot fathom the commitment of 30 days of fasting because it is so far removed from our own contexts, usually we only ever fast if medical needs arise. But Reverend Summer offers words of explanation that have very little to do with the fast itself. And I think that's something we non-Muslims might get hung up on. The act of fasting as a discomfort with little thought or consideration to what it means to partake in such a time. I could never have found the words to explain as eloquently or as meaningfully as Reverend Summer did. Likening the practice to a spiritual oasis is powerful imagery. Her hunger for foregoing physical nourishment in order to unlock her hunger for the spiritual kind. And knowing the practice is one of an abundance of love that helps prepare her to answer the call of spirit for the rest of the year. I have no basis of understanding such a deep, intentional spiritual exploration and reflection. What I appreciate most of some of the kismet that has happened today is the question you've already heard asked a few times. What if? Tara posed the question at the beginning of today's worship with her own wondering about how much of a hint of the content of was in today's worship. And also, Tara did not know what I was writing about today before she wrote her reflection. Reverend Summer also asks it in her reflection, and I think as much for her own practice as it is for the reader attending her on this mini journey in her writing. So I'll ask it again too. What if? What if we had something in Unitarian Universalism that was as intentional, as deeply engaging, and as deeply compellingly reflective? What could we as a faith community, as individuals on a journey for truth and meaning, what would we come to look like? How might it change how we see and interact with the world if we too entered whatever doors opened to the divine spirit on a daily basis? Would we even know what that looks like? Can we imagine together what that could be for us? I wonder if UUs could even possibly pick just one thing for us to do as an entire faith. Knowing our individuality, though, I suspect we probably couldn't. Not without effort. So instead of picking just one thing for all of us to do, I would like to invite you instead to pick one thing that rings that soul bell for you, that really engages your heart and mind together. It can be whatever calls to you: meditation, prayer walking, reading a text sacred to your heart, something that you think you can commit to doing intentionally for 1 week. I'm not going to ask a whole month of you. And while you do it, I encourage you to spend time reflecting on what this practice brings up for you. The places of your heart that are joyful, the pieces of your soul that are tender. Where does it lead you? Where do you find yourself bristling at discomfort or leaning into excitement? Do it every single day for 1 week. And on the last day, celebrate it joyfully. Give thanks for the opportunity to get to know that spiritual place for you that Unitarian Universalists do not often wonder and explore with. I know we cannot reliably liken it to the depth of holy exploration that Ramadan brings our Muslim siblings, nor can the celebration possibly match the jovial gratitude for the gift of the Quran and for the time spent in holy contemplation and communion with the divine. But we can explore the possibility of something else meaningful for us, giving deepest thanks to Islam as a source of faith in the same ways that we give grateful acknowledgement to Judaism and Christianity as sources of our faith. Perhaps we too can find sustenance and gladness in such a spiritual oasis of our own making. So may it be, Amen. And may your journeys over the next week be blessed.